Welcome to Mindshare TV, where we spotlight the leaders shaping the future of learning and well-being. As CEO of Mindshare Learning, I'm proud to share that we are a partner of the upcoming Mental Health Summit, media partner, taking place April 17th, 18th in Banff, Alberta. And this is more than just a conference, it's a movement to support student and educator well-being across systems. And apparently there's only 25 tickets or less remaining, so it's just about sold out. I'm joined by two incredible summit leaders and presenters, Joe Dwaran and Drew Bowman. Welcome to Mindshare TV.
Great to be with you, Robert.
Thank you for having us.
A little bit about your backgrounds because they're impressive, and beginning with Joe, who is a policy strategist, author, keynoter, and thought leader in population health, including an emphasis on creating supportive, movement-rich social and physical environments for children and youth. We are past colleagues from the participation movement, and so great to reconnect. After 30 years of experience and 30 years ago, since we connected or so, in health promotion, chronic disease prevention, and population health to his work spanning public, private, and not-for-profit sectors. Drew Bowman is the Director of Operations and Mental Health Specialist at the Workland Institute for Social and Emotional Learning, Intelligence Canada, and where she provides strategic operational leadership to advance school mental health and well-being initiatives nationwide. She's also co-organizer of the Mental Health Summit in Banff, bringing together educators, researchers, and practitioners to advance conversations and practice in school mental health. With a master's degree in health geography and over a decade of experience in school mental health and health promotion, Drew leads partnerships, organizational systems, and the delivery of high-impact programming in social emotional learning, in emotional intelligence, and Tier 1 mental health supports for students, staff, and families. It's never been a more exciting time and challenging time to be in education in the age of AI, I have to say. And I try to say that being the eternal optimist with this global geopolitical situation upon us. But sorry, digress. Let's bring it to the summit. What matters now, we're hearing more than ever about student anxiety, educator burnout. Why is this summit so timely and important right now, Joe and Drew?
Yeah, thinking about this in my lead up to my presentation at the summit, which is called Moving Minds, I asked myself the question, if not now, then when? And what I mean by that is our children and youth are facing a myriad of interdependent and interrelated crises in their life, right? The mental health crisis, the physical inactivity crisis, the social disconnection crisis, and I would call it the looming technology crisis, because we still don't really know the midterm and long-term impacts and effects of how kids are attaching themselves to technology. And now we have, as you say, AI. And so the summit represents a coming together, as you know, of leaders from across sectors and disciplines to come together and talk about the critical role that each plays in an interrelated context, because kids live in a broader socio-ecological context. It's not just about education. It's about leaders like myself who work across sectors to find opportunities for alliances and alignment to ensure that we make a bigger bang and solve really wicked problems, complex problems, and we can do that through collective impact. So I think one of the reasons the summit is so important is to bring together and what are often seemingly disparate people and groups and organizations across civic society, but we're not disparate. We should be working more together, and that's why I'm excited to attend.
Well said, Drew. What an incredible lineup that I'm sharing here on our interview. Talk to me about where you got the inspiration and how you assembled these incredible speakers, including Joe.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very grateful and very excited to be working on this summit and getting to work directly with all of the talented experts that are going to be coming from all over the world. We have people coming from New Zealand to talk about the gut-brain biome and how that influences mental health. We have Joe touching on the physical health aspect. We have some people, again, talking about AI, belonging, engagement in the classroom. So we have Dr. Winthrop coming as well. So not only is it cool that we get, just a few amazing keynotes, the fact that we can have 7 amazing keynotes in 2 days, plus a whole bunch of featured speakers as well and breakouts, it's really going to cover a lot of different topics. And I think there'll be something there for everyone, no matter what your background is and no matter what your role is within education and mental health. And to definitely build on Joe talking about, the broader context earlier and why the summit is so important and timely right now. We're still even seeing the ripple effects of COVID, and, many children have spent their critical developmental years isolated behind screens without consistent human connection. And that disrupted those disrupted opportunities to build relationship skills, conflict resolution skills, learning how to co-regulate. And, in many ways now we're supporting a generation that is relearning how to be in a community again after this period of disconnection and fear and anxiety. So that on top of, Joe talking about our rapidly evolving digital world with AI and social media, those environments are shaping how young people see themselves and how they see others. And these spaces can really amplify, comparison or misinformation and bullying. And so it can really impact even self-esteem and identity development. So with all of these layers, I'm not surprised that we're seeing significant impacts on mental health. And so it really means that we need to have events like this, and why the summit matters so much, to really start combating these issues and coming together and supporting change.
Fascinating. Thank you for that, Drew. Joe, we moved beyond awareness. What are the most important actions schools need to take today to support mental health in meaningful ways? You're an ambassador for physical activity and movement. I subscribe to that. I still play hockey 3 times a week. I think that helps me stay balanced and focused. Over to you about where things are at when it comes to school and that focus that you have.
Yeah, and so the short answer is that the education system doesn't need more programmatic offerings that are over-layered or forced upon the existing curriculum, where they are hugely challenged, we know, to find time even to deliver on their key priorities. What the education sector needs is a more grounded commitment in system change. And this is one of the reasons why this summit, again, is critically important, because this is a theme of bringing people together to really do a deep dive and look at what we must do together to change the architecture and the makeup of the education system in a fundamental way. A big job, but a necessary job, and it doesn't have to be done in 1 month or 1 year or 5 years. It's a long-term commitment. This is where we'll find new ways of working and new opportunities to build out sustainable, lasting interventions for both students, but critically also for the educators themselves. And so on that education front, we need to help our educators find ways to build out better competencies and skill sets to work together with others across civic society. I am a firm and strong believer, but that we should never be putting this issue of children and youth well-being at the feet of educators only. It is not their singular responsibility. And I think we agree. So what we need to do is find ways of bringing people along their journey of education and learning to figure out how to work together, to reach across the aisle, if you will, to talk about and with other leaders outside of the education system, public health, environment, social policy, sport and recreation, yes, and many others, where we can build these new alliances. We can set out new structures of connection with the education system that changes how the system delivers on its responsibility in a broader community context, in a civic context. Because the reality is that kids don't wake up and go down one singular pathway, every day of their life. They are impacted by any number of issues and factors and conditions, all of which are interrelated and connected in a social ecological context. And so they're affected by everything that happens in their life, not just education. Education needs to do its job, but we need to help our educators work better with others. And that's hard, because it requires change to the system and change to how educators go about their job. But it's achievable. And that's part of the work that I do.
Thank you for that. And no doubt, faculties of education in preparing teachers, new teachers, and pre-service and in-service have a role to play. And I know the University of Calgary is quite leading edge in that regard. And what would you say to faculties across the country of education in doing perhaps a better job in making this a higher priority? I know learning technology is a challenge in implementing AI, professional learning, but as we talked about, it's not necessarily their job, but you have to be there to support and identify challenges and find the right supports. But are faculties innovating quick enough is the question that comes to my mind.
Drew, do you want to take a shot at that one?
Yeah, I can jump in. I mean, I feel like there's always new evidence and emerging research that's coming out. So it's really, I mean, I give a lot of credit to the universities who are trying to stay on top of everything. But I really do think in terms of the mental health piece, which is more of what I'm familiar with, we really do need to make sure that we are equipping educators going into their first teaching jobs with the appropriate supports that they need to be able to support their students, right? So, seeing a lot of teachers who maybe aren't sure how to handle a difficult conversation, or say one of their students is struggling and they don't know how to specifically approach certain difficult subjects or things that might be going on in the home. I feel like those are some really real life situations that need to be taught to teachers while they're in school, not after the fact when they're already in the field and then they don't know what to do. We want to make sure teachers are comfortable and they're confident in their skills. And a way we could do that is to make sure that we're embedding that into the education that they get while they're in teachers college or getting ready to enter the job force.
Thank you for that. It's a good segue to my question around leadership influence in the mental health and culture area of school or districts. What are leaders often missing in this regard?
Yeah, I can chime in on that. I feel like leadership in general plays a foundational role in shaping the mental health and the culture of a school or a district. It really sets the tone for everything else. And what we've seen both in research and in practice is that sustainable change doesn't simply happen without leadership buy-in. And if leaders aren't genuinely engaged or believe in the importance of mental health promotion or physical health programs in Joe's case, or other areas of well-being, then it really becomes difficult to build that momentum and create lasting, sustainable change. When leaders prioritize mental health or social emotional learning or certain programming in their schools, if they actually believe it and are given the training on what is the benefits of it and they're behind it, then I think that really leads to the strong change. And I think in terms of the work that I do in programming, and a lot of that has to do with social emotional learning and emotional intelligence, I think one of the biggest things leaders often miss is the idea that they think about it maybe as too much of a program instead of a mindset. So when something is treated as something separate, like a lesson, sometimes it doesn't stick. And so really what we're trying to do in the work that Dr. Czerkowski and I do with the Workland Institute is really try to embed the concepts across classrooms, across relationships, daily interactions, so that it's really shaping the culture and really impacting the kids, and it's not siloed to be one class of the day. And so training all the teachers and all the leaders to be skilled and practicing actively in these sorts of skills and interactions with others is really a good way to build that foundation. And so I think leaders are doing a great job. They're doing amazing work in the schools, but having that modeling piece, believing in what they're believing in, and really working alongside their educators and their kids is just a great way to really make sure we have a really healthy culture in the schools, because the stress contagion is real. We know that, the health and the stress levels of staff is definitely correlated to the stress levels of students. There's been research showing that. So just making sure that our leaders are well so that they can support their educators in their schools, and then that will trickle down to the students. So it's really important for all to be involved.
Thank you for that. The complexity, last year's one word that I had for 2025 was #complexity. It's never been a more complex time for students. We didn't have the distractions of the mobile phones and social media. I recall coming home after school, having dinner, and then we in the wintertime and go down to the local park and play hockey all night. That was the thing we did, which is so different than today, because you're not sending your 9-10-year-old kid out on their own to play hockey all night, right? It's a different world out there. Joe, so as a presenter, I know you're going to give us a bit of a sneak peek. What are 2 practical strategies that educators attending your session can immediately bring back into their schools?
Yeah, one is that that teachers need to be empowered. They need to be given agency to be involved in decision making, in policy making, in changing the system. And one way that we can do that I'll be speaking about at my presentation, Moving Minds, vis-a-vis the connection between supporting health-enhancing movement for improved mental health, a better self-regulation, and all of what we know to be the benefits of movement-rich environments in school, is we need to empower our educators to be involved in decision making. And that is not always the case in the education system. And that's consistent perhaps with other sectors, perhaps, for example, the healthcare sector. So that's one way. And I'll be speaking about examples about how we can do that to really replicate a principle-based approach of how we want to make decisions as leaders that affect children. And that is for youth, by youth. If we get kids involved in making the decisions, they tell us what they need and want. We can shape a better reality that is supportive of their mental health and all of the other critical issues that they face today. So that's one consideration. The other consideration is that educators are in the best position to help to redesign the school day from the point of view of curriculum, but from also the point of view of safe and supportive environments, both social and physical, to support the needs of their kids. They are the frontline leaders. It stops there with respect to the connection directly to our kids, as you know. And so there are ways that have been kind of known now to be best of breed ways in other sectors, where I'm going to talk about how we can help our educators to actually redesign their learning experience with their kids. And let me give you one example. In fact, you and Dr. Hargraves and Dr. Chernowski spoke of this a little bit on your last podcast, or last session, and that is the idea of making the connection from the physical built environment of the school to the exterior environment of outdoor learning, right? Land-based learning, and connecting that to the curriculum. For example, STEM learning is being connected to land-based outdoor learning in a big way globally, and it's working. And these kids, as a consequence, are more engaged. Their comprehension levels are higher, their physical activity levels are higher, but so is their social connection. And so giving teachers the empowerment and the agency to help design the education experience for kids is another thing I'll be talking about, and I'm excited to talk about both and other topics in my presentation.
Thank you for that. Drew, there are many conferences on well-being. What makes this summit stand out in terms of impact and experience? I could see that just going through the roster of presenters, it's unparalleled, but talk to me about the why.
Yeah. So we have, over 75 speakers and contributors over the 2 days that are going to be part of this event. So like I mentioned earlier, it's really just goes beyond just the mental health piece. It's that holistic well-being. So having the opportunity to bring in speakers that talk not only about mental health and how that ties in with AI and social media and the gut-brain biome and the physical space and physical activity piece. I think it's, again, really a unique experience because it allows everyone to take away something that is suited for their needs in their position within education. And so one of the things that we're launching this year that's unique and that I think is a really good way to kind of bridge that research to practice piece, which I think makes, again, our summit a little bit unique as well, is we are launching the International Research Forum for School Mental Health. And this is building on a 52-year legacy of the Banff International Conference on Behavioral Sciences. And so we're really hoping that this is a powerful space for researchers to not only connect with each other, collaborate, innovate, share the research that they're doing with each other. There'll be plenaries, there'll be grad awards, there'll be posters where researchers are able to share the work they're doing. But we hope that this will be a good opportunity to transition that research to practice piece because we are having this summit as an opportunity for researchers to then collaborate with all the other attendees, the people that are on the front lines doing the work, and really kind of figure out a way to really put that research to practice. So I think that really makes it unique. I also feel like the setting plays a role too. You know, being in the beautiful Alberta Rockies, what better place to have a mental health conference that supports your own well-being. So being able to get our attendees there learning and also being able to be present in nature with the mountains as a beautiful backdrop. It'll be a great opportunity to kind of allow people to give themselves some self-care as well. And we do have wellness activities embedded into the summit as well. So hopefully, you know, you'll be able to get out and do a yoga session or do an all walk or a mindfulness walk out in nature. So we're just excited that it's really going to be holistic and look at different areas of well-being, not just the mental piece, but the physical and the spiritual, and just making sure everyone's engaged and ready to learn.
I was just going to mention the environment and learning environments, work environments. We're in a co-working innovation center here in a shopping mall of all places. And we have kids here this week. Planet Youth is an organization that advocates for drug prevention, and they are here doing research with youth 15 to 17 years old. So I've been interacting with them, and they love the environment, and it's inspirational. And it sets the tone, doesn't it, when you find the right space and place to launch, like our Schools of the Future and our AI Summit at the University of Toronto, Mississauga. It's in a really cool rotunda. It's actually in one of the Netflix shows. It's a beautiful, inspiring space, and I'm really into design thinking around spaces because it makes an impact on student learning. The colors you choose, the furniture you select, and whether we talked about outdoor learning. We were with C21 Canada. We were up in the Yukon, and we went to an outdoor class in the middle of winter in the Yukon. And they do this every day. You just dress for it. If I approached schools here and talked about that in the GTA, I think they'd look at me and think you're a little crazy because they have their recess time, but they don't necessarily have classes outdoors, which, you know, I think makes a real impact on the state of well-being for sure.
Yeah. If I may, Robert, it brings up, you've reminded me, it brings up such an excellent point because not only the social environment, but the critical environment in which our children and youth live, learn, and play sets the stage for whether or not they have the supports in their life that help them grow up to be happy, healthy, active, caring, connected, independent, and productive adults. That's my raison d'etre in my work, essentially. And it reminds me that there increasingly is a growing interest across sectors, not just in the health promotion or the mental health sector, but a lot of other players across civic society want to get involved in this space. An example of that is the Conference Board of Canada several years ago, now rebranded to Signal 49, you may know, helped to create something called the Community Wellbeing Framework. And the Community Wellbeing Framework is essentially a framework set out in a gaming context. It's a board game that helps leaders across sectors and disciplines come together and plan well-being communities. And the entry point is architecture, right? The entry point is architecture. Yeah. How do you physically build buildings and communities such that they are supportive of helping people to move, helping people to access resources, and a whole number of other domains. And so it speaks to the importance of the setting, but it speaks to the importance also of taking upstream approaches. Let's get at this stuff before we find that communities are sick. Right. And as a consequence, their residents are sick, whether it be in schools or in any other physical setting. So that's a critical message that you make about fixing, retrofitting, or building new environments, physical environments that are supportive of the impacts that we want to have for our kids and our youth.
Thank you for that. I'd love to unpack that a little more on another podcast, perhaps. But just absolutely. To wrap this up, with only some 25 tickets remaining, what would you say to someone who's considering attending but hasn't yet committed? Drew?
I would say, even if you're thinking about it, it's probably your sign to just do it. You're guaranteed to lead with greater knowledge, so many more connections. There's so many, not only just being in a session, but we'll have a chapters and cheers event. You get to meet different authors, you get to mingle with new people. And I think no one will leave there feeling like they didn't get at least 10 different things from going. So I would say buy the ticket while they're available. And I'm excited to see everyone there. I'm so energized about it, even as we're preparing for it, that everyone I feel like is going to leave feeling, hopefully replenished, from being in the mountains, and be able to go back with kind of a renewed vision and plan for how they can implement some new strategies within their schools or their districts.
Thank you so much for that. Joe, over to you.
I'll steal. Thank you, Robert. I'll steal from kind of a proprietary brand that I'm building out in my work together with my clients, governments and educators and social purpose organizations and other across the country. And that is this term I call movementum. The idea that if we come together to talk, plan, align, and deliver primary prevention interventions that get at the root causes of these issues in advance, but together with the clinical approaches, we can create momentum. And I think that one of the things that folks will come away with if they choose to sign on to these 25 remaining tickets is they're going to come away with more momentum that they can apply and take back to their work that will help them figure out how to have more impact in their work and how to work with others in ways that are meaningful and sustainable.
Thank you so much for that. Joe, Drew, thank you for your leadership and important work that you're doing to support educators and students. To our Mindshare TV audience, the Mental Health in Schools Summit is happening April 17th to 18th in Banff with only 25 tickets remaining. This is your time to secure your spot. Join a community committed to building schools where well-being is not an option, but essential. From where we're sitting from Mindshare Learning and C21 Canada, the conversation has definitely shifted. Mental health is no longer an initiative. It's foundational to learning, leadership, and system success. The summit brings together the right people, the right ideas, and the right sense of urgency. This is thanks for tuning into Mindshare TV. Until next time, my name is Robert Merdolacci, the Mindshare Learning Report. Stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.